Greetings, everyone. We are back with another Gutsy Woman profile. Today, we're speaking to Deb Jacobs. Deb is the mastermind behind Money Smart for Life and has a very interesting past. And something I hope you're going to talk about is your 60 to 60. So, Deb, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. Can you give us a little bit of background and who you are, what you're about?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Brenda. I really appreciate the opportunity. And it's always fun to talk with a gutsy woman. So I have worked for many years as a preschool owner, operator, teacher. And I started my preschool when my oldest daughter was just turning 3. Actually, I opened my preschool 1 week before 9/11. So it's an interesting time. But before that, I had worked for many years in a nonprofit, helping immigrants and refugees to the United States learn about work and culture, English, and actually I taught a personal finance course there as well. And I did a lot of fundraising and grant writing and things like that. And I just hit a certain age in my 30s, had ended a relationship, and felt that what I wanted more than anything was to be a parent. So I just made the decision to adopt a child. And once I made that decision, it was like the universe opened up and everything clarified. I really thought before that, oh my gosh, I will never be able to do this. How can I do this myself? And once you clarify and you make that decision, you just figure out how to do it. And so I did. So a year later, I brought my baby girl home. And then a few years after that, I adopted a second child and have raised 2 daughters on my own. And as I said, when my older daughter was almost 3, I wanted to spend more time with her. I was ready to work with young children. I had worked in education with adults for many years. And so I opened up basically a family childcare in my home. And I'll tell you, it was a nightmare for a couple of years. It was really, really hard. You know, we did it in our living space, and my daughter, I thought, this will be great for my daughter. She'll be home with me. We'll be together. And it wasn't so much fun for her to be home with me with a bunch of other kids.
You know, it's really interesting because here we are in the midst of coronavirus with kids being home with parents, and the excitement wore off a long time ago. Well, we do share something in common, that we're both single moms. I've adopted my child from Ukraine, and I recall traveling there on my own, not knowing the language, and I sometimes look back and think of it like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And if you want something bad enough, you do it.
Didn't it enrich your life in so many untold ways?
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly, there are struggles. You know, you think you're ready, but it's like, holy cow, this parenthood stuff is hard work. So,
Yep.
yeah, so it's interesting too, because at one point, I mean, you chose a nonprofit over of a large corporation. Is that right?
Yes, I did. I was at a point in my life, I had had a job before, but I was ready to move on. And I was at a point in my life where I was really kind of searching for meaning. Like, you know, how do I want to spend my life energy? Is it about making money? Is it about doing something good in the world? And at that time, I had the mistaken impression that you couldn't do both, you know, that it was one or the other. But I applied for a job in a big insurance company downtown, and there were a gazillion applicants. I think out of 200 applicants, I was finally, surprisingly, chosen as the person they wanted to hire. And it was more money than I had ever made and great benefits. but I'd be sitting in a little windowless office, spending all of my time contributing to the bottom line of a big corporation. And at the same time, I had been volunteering with a nonprofit, and I volunteered as a sort of a tutor mentor to a person who was new to the country. This was an incredibly brave woman. Talk about gutsy women, who had come here on a boat from Vietnam, and the things that she had gone through were amazing. And she worked her butt off, and she's extremely successful today. But when she first came, I was sort of her lifeline to American culture. And we met 3 hours a week, and we just talked, and I helped her with English and figuring out jobs and things like that. And that nonprofit, the director asked me, did I want to work with them? And so I really had a big decision to make. It's like, lots more money, or I could do something where I felt like I was really making a difference for people. And it ended up being not much of a huge choice. I decided to go with the nonprofit.
So when you did that, I mean, part of the reason that I've created the Gutsy Women Club is that there's so many people that say, well, that's a really dumb idea. And, you know, why would you do that? And so can you talk about like whether you've had support like within your family, or, you know, I know some people are just like born gutsy. It seems like, you know, they've done things in their teen years. Others kind of grow into it, but a lot of it has to do with whatever's going on at home. So, I mean, can you talk about sort of that support network, or could have been, you know, the opposite, where they were, you know, your parents were like, you know, Deb, what are you doing?
So I certainly wasn't born gutsy. I was a relatively shy child. And I was lucky, though. My parents were fairly hands-off with the decisions I made when I was an adult. And so I didn't have pushback from my family about, you're turning down all that money? Are you crazy? I think they just wanted me to be happy. And so with that behind me, it's easier to make certain decisions.
Right.
Never, ever felt like I had to fall back. I knew that once I turned, you know, graduated from college and was on my own, I was not going to go to my parents for financial support. I just, you know, wasn't anything that they said. It was just always understood that once you're an adult, you're on your own. So I had to make decisions where I was able to support myself. And I was able to support myself working for the nonprofit. I had to forego a lot of savings and, you know, other things that I could have done. So, you know, I lived with a roommate for a very long time rather than living on my own, and then.
It seems like we have, you know, maybe my age is going to show here, but it seems so. My adult child is independent, and it seems like that is a big struggle for parents to get those kids out. And I don't know if we're talking about a generational leg, or there's just a different attitude, because I also felt the same as you, that I went off to college and then I'd better be able to figure out how to be on my own. And it seems as if things have shifted. So now you've got 2 daughters. Are you able to build them toward independence, or what's?
I mean, I think they have that same understanding that once they're out in the world, there's no mommy bank. They're going to be independent. I have a daughter who's a senior in college, so she is coming to that point of figuring out where she's going to be and what she's going to be doing. And I actually hope she comes home for a year after college, because she will end up with a relatively small loan. And if she got a job and lived at home for a year, she could pay that sucker off and start life debt-free. So I'm actually kind of rooting for that to happen, but she's a very independent kid, and she wants to go off and do, you know, outdoor education and lead outward bound programs, or, you know, NOLs or things like that. So she may just be off in the woods somewhere rather than at home. But she is definitely independent minded and, knows that she won't rely on me. My younger daughter is a dancer, and she would be going into her senior year of high school this year, but she graduated early. She took it upon herself to take extra classes, and she just finished a couple of online classes she had to take, so she will be getting her diploma pretty soon.
Well, congratulations. That's great.
The original plan was for her to then go to San Francisco and do a dance training program. Of course, with COVID, she's going to be doing it in our basement online. But, that's how it goes. So she's going to be dependent on me for a little while longer because she has dance training that costs money, and she's going to have to, live. If she does eventually end up in San Francisco, it's an extremely expensive place to live.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So she'll, and she's only 17. I don't expect her to go and be independent. But if she actually does, after a couple of years of training, get a job as a dancer, then she won't be making a lot of money, but hopefully she'll be self-supporting.
So it sounds to me that you've kind of, there are some pluses of being a single mom. I think one of those is that the children are expected to, they've got to learn their laundry. They've got to help with the meals. They have to help because it's very difficult to just have one parent do it all. But it seems from just what you've said that you've raised them to be gutsy.
It's so funny to think of it that way. I mean, what I always wanted to raise strong women who were able to go out in the world and, be pulled by something that they love and go do it. And so hopefully both of my girls are going to do that.
So you've mentioned finances a couple of times, and so you've got Money Smart for Life. And tell me about, so you've pivoted from a nonprofit. You've created your own preschool, and now you are a financial coach.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about how those pivots have worked, and especially now with the interest in finances.
Yes. So the pivot from the job to opening the preschool was not a financially based decision. It was a life-based decision. I wanted to spend more time with my kid. I wanted to be around young children. I have my master's in education and had been doing education with adults for a long time. And I just felt like it was time to be working with young children. So the first year of my preschool not only was really hard, because I had this fantasy that it would be great being with my daughter, and she hated every minute of it. But not the second one. That's all she ever knew. And she would ask me on weekends, "Mommy, is it a school day today?" And I'd say, "No, it's a family day." And she'd say, "Oh," so the first one didn't feel that way. So the moving from the job in the nonprofit to the preschool, the first year I made very, very little money. I had saved some money up, so lived off that for a while. And then once I built up a reputation, and then it became easier, and I eventually renovated my whole basement into a preschool. And when I stopped doing it, I had 3 teachers working for me, all part-time. But it was working well. Mm-hmm. And now, because of COVID, when things closed down, I could open my preschool back up, but 3 reasons I'm not. One is that I think science is still out on young children and the spread of COVID. The second is that two of the 3 absolutely fabulous teachers that work for me are in their mid-60s, and I just don't want to put them in any danger at all. And then the third thing is I can't imagine running a program for young children where I can't hug them and hold them. And I mean, this is what young children need. So,
Right.
and I just don't feel safe doing that right now. So I had been wanting for a long time to start a financial coaching business as a side hustle. But, you know, with a business, and my mind was constantly occupied with what's my next curriculum unit going to be with the kids and all of that. So it was hard to find the time to actually do the work needed to get something started on the side. I did not pay attention to my finances for a very long time, and I would be in a much better financial place if I had known about how to do that. But I always focused on my preschool and my kids, and everything else I said, you know, I'll do that later. I'll invest later. I'll save money later. And later never really came along. And then sort of serendipitously, a couple of years ago, I stumbled upon the FIRE movement, which is Financial Independence, Retire Early. And of course, I'm way too late for the retire early part, but I just got interested. And I started reading every book I could get my hands on, and I listened to a gazillion podcasts, and I actually started a blog for people over 50 who were interested in financial independence called FI After 50, and a Facebook group, which is now going strong for people over 50 interested in financial independence. And I did a deep dive. It was just one of those things that once I, you know, got a hold of that noodle, I couldn't put it down. And now I'm actually taking the financial counseling accreditation program through AFCPE or AFPCE. I forget exactly what that's called. And yeah.
Right. So for those listening, financial coaching is a relatively new business, and you can hang your shingle out without any credentials. So I went through like the Financial Coaching Academy, graduated from that, and there are a couple of programs.
Finished the AFCPE program.
Right. So that's sort of what you're looking for, is somebody who has that particular training. And the FIRE movement, especially that FI piece, financial independence, I mean, that's something that I found to be very, very exciting myself when I happened across it. And it's like, wow, you know, if something happens to my job or I want to leave early, I can do it. And so that's part of our Gutsy Women Club too, is to try to give people the financial knowledge. But I'm going to back up a bit, because I have my PhD, and the only thing I learned about finances was how to balance my checking account. And I learned that in high school. How about you?
I never learned a thing about finances. I graduated from college, I got a job, I got my paycheck, I paid my bills, and I blew through the rest. I mean, you know, I did save up enough for a 5% down payment to buy a house. And I remember the night 23 years ago, before my closing. And I was up almost all night saying, oh my God, this is so much money. I'm doing this all by myself. Why am I doing this? And of course, just dumb luck. Within 3 years maybe, housing values in my neighborhood doubled. And within like 6 or 7 years, they tripled. And by now they've quadrupled from what I bought my house for. So I have a lot of equity. I could sell my house and do fine, which is a possibility in my eventual retirement plan. And the other thing that I did that was actually smart, and did this intentionally, one of the very few smart things I did earlier in life financially, was I bought a 2-family house. So I rent out half of my house. And for many years, I've lived with my tenants paying my mortgage, taxes, and insurance.
That is very, very smart. I think we're seeing more of that now. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting to me about the pandemic. I have seen entrepreneurs and individuals become more innovative. The number of people selling their masks on Etsy, it's become a new business, but also people becoming cognizant of, you know what, my housing is my biggest expense, and maybe there's a way for me to get rid of some of that expense. So that is really brilliant. Yes.
Even things like renting out some storage space in your garage or renting out your driveway for parking. I mean, there are many ways. If you're creative about it, there are ways to make some money from living in your house.
Right, right. So it's I want to go back a bit and talk about women over 50. So let's say you've got a really late start in life, and this is true of many, especially for women, especially if there's a divorce and they find they're on their own and they've got to manage money or a death. And it's there's this sense of, well, I can't possibly do this. And once you run the numbers and run the math and cut your living expenses and try to grow an income, it is possible, I believe, for many to catch up even in their 50s. What do you think?
I completely agree with you. I think that it's so hard when women at that age all of a sudden face this, oh my God moment. Like, I'm divorced now and I have to start over. And I thought my life was going to go this way and now it's going that way. And we all know that time in the market makes a huge difference. So that if you invest when you're 20, I'm actually sort of a little side hustle I'm doing while I'm working on my business is I'm working with a family where their kids used to be in my preschool. And now one is in 9th grade and the other's in 6th grade and they're doing school from home. So I'm helping them out a little bit and doing some projects with the kids. And so I'm actually talking to the 9th grader about time in the market. And he's making a little money and we might end up opening a little Roth IRA for him.
That's cool.
Isn't that great? And so we all know that if you invest when you're 20, or in his case, 14, but if you invest when you're 20 or 22 or 25, and you keep on putting money into the market over time, you're going to do fine. There are going to be up markets and down markets, but markets tend to go up and you're eventually going to be fine. Now you're 50 and you haven't done any of that. You're like, I don't have time in the market. What am I going to do? Well, first of all, you might have more time in the market than you think you have, because if you're 50 or 55 or even 60, people are living longer. And if you have other income sources, if you're house hacking or you have a little side business or you're still working and making a good income, you have some kind of cash flow to fund your life, and you start investing in your 50s, by the time you're 75, 80, you could be doing okay.
So for the women who are viewing this right now, and they're like, I don't, the whole money stuff, I'll let somebody else deal with it. I'm not interested. I'm intimidated by it. Is there a book that you would recommend? Like, how does somebody get started? Just what would you recommend as a starting point?
Oh boy. Let me just go back for 1 second before I get to that question. Sure. It's not just investing in the market in your 50s, but there are so many other ways of being okay. People are starting side hustles like crazy. Something you love doing and you're good at and a skill you can help people with, you could make some money. You could, we talked about house hacking. You could use home as a way to make some money. There are just many, many ways of getting yourself into a good financial position, including looking at your spending and figuring out how to cut some expenses expenses that don't necessarily add value to your life. All right, so a book, let me think about that. Oh, there were so many. I think in terms of investing, I would say J.L. Collins, A Simple Path to Wealth, is probably one that just about everybody should read. Let's see, for people who are older, it's a real good question. I mean, there are so many great books about money and I don't know, I'm just drawing a blank at the moment, but
yeah, it's. I mean, I think I'm a late starter too. I mean, I read David Bach's "Smart Women Finish Rich," and he introduced me to the idea of a dream fund, and that just blew my head off. I'm like, are you kidding me? A dream fund? There's savings and there's retirement. There's a dream fund?
Isn't that great?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I am, it's interesting because, you know, age impacts a lot of what we do, and we get to a certain age, and I think a lot of women will say, well, I can't do that at my age, or that's just, you know, in my youth maybe, but not anymore. I really want, I really, yeah, I'd really love to hear you talk about your 60 to 60 project. I think that is just awesome, and I'm dying to find out more.
Okay, so I was facing the big 6-0 and thinking, how am I going to celebrate this rather than go, oh, you know, I'm turning 60, because I don't feel old. I just, it's like, what do I do to both help myself and show other people that you can have so much fun at this age? So I came up with this idea of doing this 60 adventure challenge. And the original idea was 60 adventures once a week in the year leading up to my 60th, year and a half or so leading up to my 60th birthday. And so I didn't quite make the once a week thing. I started off very strong, and then life gets in the way. So I extended it past my 60th birthday and said, if I finish by the time I'm 61, that's fine too. But I did things that I've always wanted to do and things that I was a little bit afraid of doing. So one thing I always wanted to do was go dog sledding. So we went dog sledding, took my family, and it was an absolute blast.
Where do you go dog sledding?
Well, up in northern Maine. So I'm in the Boston area.
Okay.
And we went and spent the weekend up in northern Maine and went dog sledding, and we had a blast. I took a helicopter lesson, so I got to actually, of course, it was a first time lesson, so I'm not actually going to fly a helicopter on my own, but he did let me take over the controls a bit. I got to hover, and I got to, go around. That was really cool.
Wow.
I took a snowboarding lesson. I was a skier for many years, so that, when I was a kid and into my, adulthood, really until kids came along, I did a lot of downhill skiing. But I never taught my kids how to downhill ski because I was afraid they'd love it. And it's super expensive. But anyway, so I took a snowboarding lesson, and that was hard. That was hard, but fun. I don't want to do it again, but it was fun. So I did a lot of those. And then I did some things like I took a dance lesson, which was an absolute blast. And I think the hardest one sort of emotionally for me was going to a shooting range and shooting guns. Because I haven't been around guns. I didn't grow up in a gun culture. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of couldn't separate myself from the destructive power of the guns. I was actually a pretty good shot, but so that was not something I want to do again, but I'm really glad I did it.
Well, how did you select what you were going to do?
So I started out with a list of things I've always wanted to do. And then I put it out to friends and family and said, give me ideas. I came up with maybe 25, 30 things on my own, and then said, give me ideas of other things that I could do. And people came up with great ideas. So I took a little break from it and then started back up, and then COVID hit. So, that's kind of put a damper on things, but I'm going to get back into it once I can get back up there in the world.
Terrific. And you can follow Deb's adventures at 60to60.com.
Yes.
Perfect.
The number 0260. Actually, the words will work too, 60 to 60.
Okay. I did glance through that. I was particularly struck, as somebody who can't carry a tune, that you took voice lessons and sang.
That was actually, forget the guns. That was the hardest thing I did. That was the hardest, because I'm the kid who the teachers told mouth the words. And the one that my kids always say if I'm singing in the car, Mom, stop. So I took a few voice lessons, and I actually recorded myself singing for the world to see. So that was hard, but I'm glad I did it.
That is all very gutsy. What kinds of advice do you have for women who are kind of looking at what you've done with your career, but also with the adventures, but they just don't feel courageous enough to take that step? What kind of advice do you have?
I would say take baby steps. Do one thing that's a little bit out of your comfort zone and build on that. And then once you do that and you see, oh, that wasn't so bad, I could handle that, then you can take the next step. And before you know it, you're going to look back and say, wow, I did that. But, don't think you need to jump in full force the first time you do something or want to do something. Just break it down and do one thing at a time.
So are you going to do a 70 before 70? What's in store for you for the next, what are your dreams? What would you like to do in the next 10 years?
Well, my life is changing because my kids are flying the nest at some point post-COVID. And so for the first time in many years, I'm going to be living on my own, and I'm not quite sure what that's going to be like. So we'll see. But I really want my business to work because I really want to help, particularly other women, and particularly single women who want to become parents, and help them with their finances and with figuring out their lives to make that possible. So that would be a very fulfilling life for me for the next 10 or more years, to be doing that and helping people. Who knows? I always thought I would live and die in my house forever, but who knows? I might sell my house, and I don't quite think the RV life is for me. I'm a little bit too much of a homebody. I love traveling, and then I want to come home. But boy, the idea of slow traveling, going someplace for 3-4 months and then coming home, that sounds super exciting to me. So
yeah, it's a wide open world out there. And so for people who want to connect with Deb, is moneysmartforlife.com, is that the best?
Yes, moneysmartforlife.com.
Okay, so we'll post all those in the comments. Any final words?
Just, sometimes the whole idea of being gutsy, just do what your heart tells you to do. I had a friend who, when at my age I decided to start a new business, said, boy, you have cojones. And I was like, really? Isn't that interesting to think? It didn't occur to me that it was a brave thing to do at my age. It was just what I want to do. So I would say just listen to what you want to do. There's a way to do it. Get the help you need. There are people who can help you.
That is very good advice. And I do hope for those watching and part of the Gutsy Women Club that we are all about supporting one another and encouraging folks to go out and take those steps. Deb, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. And I have been looking through the 60to60.com, and I've got a couple of years before I get there. I don't know. I may have to try to up you on that one.
Absolutely do it. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. It was really great.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.